Thanks, Cecilia. I think I'll jump in next. So my name is Jenna Johnson-Hanks. I am the Dean of the College of Letters and Science, and I'm enormously happy to get to welcome you today to this conversation. We are thrilled that you are considering the college, and we very much hope that you will enjoy the conversation we have for you. I'm also an alum of the college, and so that was a very long time ago, but many of the things that are glorious now have been glorious for a long time. And so I hope to share some of those reflections as well. I'm going to turn now to Eileen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eileen Liu. I work in the College of Letters and Science as the Director of Curricular Engagement Initiatives, which is a fancy way of saying that I get to design and coordinate programs that benefit undergraduates within LNS as well as campus-wide. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm also an alum of the College of Letters and Science. I received my PhD here from the English department in 2018. And I also, like Jenna, find Berkeley to be filled with charms and wonders and get to experience that every single day. I just wanted to share that earlier this week, I was walking across the quad, and on Memorial Glade, there were a group of students playing Quidditch. There were a group of students watching people how to put together a tent. There were students just chilling, just having fun, and a bunch of people playing spike ball. And that's just a typical afternoon in Berkeley, which is just a wondrous place to be. I love being here. And I hope that you all will come to be inspired as I have been. And now I'll allow Maggie to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie. I'm a current student in LNS, and I study political science and I have a minor in global studies. And yeah, LNS has been a great place to be. I've learned so much throughout my time at Berkeley, both academically and personally, and it's a great place to be. So welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you, Maggie. And we have another student who we're hoping will be joining us. Perhaps she's having some struggles, but we're expecting Yvette to join us as well. I want to say just 5 words about the college before we begin asking Maggie 1,000 questions about her experience. The college is the largest at Berkeley. In fact, 3/4 of the students who choose to come to Berkeley select the college. And they do that because we have a whole variety of majors and minors that are really enchanting. Some of the most largest and popular majors on the campus are in the college, and also some of the small, exotic, intriguing ones that you might not have thought of. So in the college, we have big departments that are well known: economics and psychology and history and English and physics and math. And also we have some departments that nobody else would be fortunate enough to have. My own home department is demography, or population sciences, which is something really unique to Berkeley. We also have a unique set of rich departments in the languages and literatures of very many parts of the world. So almost anything that enchants you as a scholarly project, almost anything that you wonder about or are curious about, something that you hope to pursue, there's an opportunity to do that here in the college. So that's part of why so many people choose LNS when they're trying to decide where in Berkeley is the right place for them. With that, I think let's go ahead and start peppering Maggie with questions. And first, Maggie, you started saying some of the things that you've enjoyed. Could you talk a little bit about what brought you to choose the College of Letters and Science and Berkeley specifically?
Yeah, so the reason why I chose LNS within Berkeley is because I really wanted to have a liberal arts education. I wanted to be able to explore a variety of different majors, as well as take classes across different departments. Not every college is as flexible in that regard, and LNS was and had that ability for me to do that. So I really prioritized that. In terms of Berkeley as a whole, the different majors that I was thinking about pursuing were all very well regarded at Berkeley, as well as the fact that I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Delaware, and having the opportunity to explore California was something that really appealed to me, as well as I really enjoy how close Berkeley is to San Francisco and just how I can navigate other parts of the Bay Area.
Maggie, I remember when I was thinking about where to go for schools, I didn't realize that Berkeley was right across the bay from San Francisco. And so I was very surprised when I was booking my flight to come visit Berkeley. I'm like, oh, it's right there. I am also from the East Coast. And so that definitely resonates with me, Maggie. So our second question for you is, How did it feel to transition from high school to the College of Letters and Science? How was that transition for you?
I think for me, the transition was pretty smooth. The difference being from high school and college is like your ability to time manage, since you have a lot more homework and you spend less time in class, but being able to navigate how to prioritize what to do throughout the day is really important. So it did take some time to adjust to the increase in my reading load as well as the amount of papers I wrote, but for the most part, I think it went pretty smoothly. Yeah.
So the managing the workload went smoothly. What about finding a social life at Berkeley? I know that it's complicated for many students. Have you found a community here?
Yeah, I would say I found a community here, though at first it was a little jarring just from moving across the country. I had one person from my high school come from Delaware as well, but everyone else, like I just didn't know anyone. I know some other students from in California come from large high schools where like a good amount of their class comes to Berkeley. But for me, I thought it was a pretty good way to find a community was just talking to people in my dorms, as well as joining different clubs on campus, or just talking to the person next to you in a class and finding you have something in common. So I think it was like easy. It was like there was a transition period, but I think in the end I was able to find a community at Berkeley, and I've really been enjoying my time here.
Yeah, I'm going to just follow up a little bit before you jump in, Eileen, that we have a lot of clubs and a lot of social groups. Just could you describe a little, maybe either the physicality of Sproul, or like how does one go about even knowing where they are or what they are or where to find them?
Yeah, so there are hundreds, if not thousands of clubs at Berkeley, since whoever wants to make a club, there's a process to go through that. So if there's something that you want to take part of that's not already on campus, you're free to start your own club. And the way that clubs advertise themselves on campus is Sproul, which is like the main like walkway area by Sather Gate at Berkeley, is where a lot of different clubs table during, especially during the early weeks of the spring semester as well as the fall semester, and they flyer you. So you walk to your classes and you see all of these clubs promoting their different activities, and you can pick up flyers and see what you're interested in and apply for these clubs and join other individuals who share common interests with you.
Can I ask another follow-up question to that? Because I mean, I'm so curious, because you said a lot of different ways that you've been able to find community. Where would you, from your perspective, where have you found the strongest community?
Yeah, I think I found the strongest community within clubs, since for me, I have a group of people I've worked with across different activities for several years in a row now. So I think that's a way for me to find community. I also found it was good to just become friends and find a small community with people you live with. But I guess because of COVID, the people I've lived with, like first in my dorms, I was close to the people in my dorms, and now I'm close with the people I live with in my apartment. But last year I was at home, so there was like a kind of in-between period. But yeah, I think that regardless, even with the online remote period that made things slightly more difficult, there is a way to find a community at Cal.
Thanks, Maggie. So, we touched on how big Berkeley is, and Jenna just mentioned that, you will be able to find fantastic resources and opportunities and people here. So can you say a little bit more about some of those opportunities and resources that you've taken advantage of your time so far here at Berkeley?
Yeah, for me, I think it's really important to reach out to advising from a lot of different avenues. So I've talked to LNS advising to make sure I know what is expected of me in the college, as well as my own major advisors to be on track for graduation and what classes I need to take and how to plan out my schedule to maximize my time here, as well as the Career Center also is advising. So if you're thinking about internships or jobs, as well as like what you want to do following graduation, they're a really helpful resource. Another thing that I used a lot more before COVID because now my professors don't expect me to print things as much, but the OCF, which is by our the MLK Student Union at Berkeley, allows students to get free printing, which is really helpful. And just like libraries, I really enjoy coming back to campus and having the ability to study. And we have some beautiful libraries across campus. Like I really love just like the whole image of just studying at Doe Library. It's like straight from a movie.
Yeah, Doe really is straight from a movie. And the other thing that I love about Doe is that little crazy, funny passageway between Doe and Moffat, where you like go down through the hallways. And yeah, that I've always thought that something magical must happen when you've got a hallway that cool. I really appreciated, Maggie, as you were talking about the things that the resources that you've taken advantage of and the things that have been here, how you talked about how some of them are really pleasurable things in this moment, and some of them are really future oriented. And that notion of, this is an important part of your life, and it's also preparation for the rest of your life. And I just think that you said that in a very elegant way. A lot of what I'm trying to do as dean is to try to think through how can we strengthen this educational experience to prepare students for lives of consequence, and that in the things that our students go on to do are so extraordinary. And just, I really like the way you were talking about what you're doing now as having this dual temporality of the close and also the far. But I'm not supposed to talk about that. I'm supposed to be asking you the next question, which is if you could talk a little bit about any experiences you've had at Berkeley that have been really meaningful to you. You already did this a little bit, so I'm just inviting you to follow up a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, so I've had meaningful experiences both academically and with my friends at Berkeley. Like Eileen said, I enjoy just like spending a sunny day on the glade with just a group of friends picnicking. Berkeley on a sunny day with, you can see the Campanile is like gorgeous. And the weather here, I mean, it's raining right now, but the weather here in general is pretty great in terms of like, it's not too hot, not too cold. I appreciate that. I come from the East Coast, it gets really cold. And then academically, I would say just the connections I've formed with professors, like going to professors' office hours. I've done research with one of our professors, and it's just like been really interesting to meet people who are experts in the field and just having conversations with them and learning more about what they do.
Thanks, Maggie. Can you maybe say one particular class or professor who's made a particular impact on you?
Yeah, I would say there's a legal studies freshman sophomore seminar. I think it's Legal Studies 39D with Professor Pomerantz. And I thought that was a really meaningful class for me. It discusses the US Constitution as well as the Supreme Court. As someone who was interested in law but wasn't sure, this class really solidified my interest in the class. And his way of teaching really focuses on critical thinking. And I think that's a critical skill we need just in any field. And I enjoyed the class so much that I'm taking his upper division seminar this semester as well. Yes.
Perfect. That is just what we want to hear. I'm going to interrupt a little bit and ask if Eileen would jump in for a moment and talk about some of the courses that you've been supporting and developing. Eileen has this magnificent portfolio of really engaging courses, and maybe you could just say a few words about them, Eileen.
I'd be delighted to do that. So Maggie, the freshman sophomore seminars, I wish I could say that I planted you here to say something wonderful about that program, but I did not plant you here. And it gives me so much joy to hear that class was meaningful to you and had an impact on you. And it's exactly what I want students to be getting out of that particular experience. And freshman sophomore seminars, as Maggie can say a little bit more about if she would like, are classes that are restricted to first and second year students. And by design, they're very small classes. So many of them enroll 10 to 15 students max, and they're on a topic that is of interest to the faculty member and hopefully also of interest to the students. And this program was designed because we recognize that a lot of freshmen and sophomores are taking really large introductory classes and can sometimes feel a little anonymous in those spaces. And so this is a chance for them to get to know their professors more intimately, to get to know their classmates more, and have the opportunity to engage in the kind of intellectual dialogue and conversation that we hope that students are getting a lot of at Berkeley when they're here. Two other programs I want to highlight are the LNS Discovery classes, which are the ideal way, I say, to fulfill your breadth requirements while you're here at Berkeley. And Maggie, maybe you can talk about some of the breadth requirements as you've experienced them as part of your liberal arts education. These classes are taught by some of our most fantastic and well-respected teachers here at Cal. Two of our most popular and longstanding classes, one is taught by a professor in psychology, Professor Keltner, which is on the topic of human happiness. And there's also a Berkeley X at X version of this class that's taught online and asynchronously. But if you're a Cal student, you get to go to his class and see him teach this live and in person. That's one of the privileges of being a student here at Cal. The other really popular LNS Discovery class is Wealth and Poverty, taught by Professor Robert Reich, who is a professor in the Goldman School of Public Policy. Again, if you are a Cal student, you get to sign up to be in that class and get to hear from one of our renowned intellectual thinkers and knowledge producers. These are really the heart of the programs that I help to coordinate here on campus. The other program I want to touch on, and then I'll turn it back to Jenna to ask the next question to Maggie, is Big Ideas courses. So Big Ideas courses are classes where you are taking a class where two or more of our professors are teaching in the same subject. And by design, they're professors who are in totally different disciplines. So imagine, a class that's on the 2020 election that's being taught by somebody in the School of Law and African American Studies. Or imagine a class on fire in California, and that's being taught by a professor from anthropology and environmental science policy and management. And think about the kinds of big questions that are driving our society today and the way that they really can't be answered or solved by a single discipline and a single school of thought, that these problems of our society need urgent solutions that require all of us thinking from very different sides and different disciplines and fields of knowledge in order to figure those questions out. And you get to sit in that classroom and participate in that kind of intellectual vibrancy and excitement and see two or more professors go head to head, toe to toe, week after week.
Yeah, that's so much the spirit of Berkeley, like head to head and toe to toe. That's kind of how we do stuff. That's how we roll. So I think I get to ask the question next about choosing majors. Maggie, you began a little bit talking about that favorite course, but could you say a little bit more about how you chose your major or how your friends have chosen their majors?
Yeah, so I chose my major kind of just like by chance. I had an idea of wanting to study the social sciences coming to Berkeley and just took classes across a variety of disciplines in my freshman year to figure out what I was most interested in. And I just happened to keep taking multiple political science classes and I've enjoyed them. And then I was like, okay, I'll continue with it. And since then, even in completing upper division requirements for my major, I've continued to take a lot of classes that I enjoyed. For other students, I think they were interested in a lot of different things. So I have friends who took longer to decide, but I think as long as you have a general idea of what you want to do and you're willing to explore the different classes offered, you can find what you're interested in. And when you're exploring, it's not like the classes you're taking are to any waste, because not only do you learn so much information from these different fields, but they also, you mentioned, fulfill breadth requirements in LNS, where you can say take a science course or a history course, and they can satisfy graduation requirements while you're in this process of figuring out what you want to study.
Thanks, Maggie. All right, we have some time now for questions from our audience, and then we have one more question to wrap up at the very end. Jenna, I don't know how we want to do this. Are there particular questions? I think you and Maggie can both see the questions. Are there particular ones that either of you would like to answer?
Maybe let's start taking them in order. How how about I read them out and then everybody jumps in and adds them or answers them. The first question is it easy to add a second major in LNS?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty easy to add a second major in LNS. I am a peer advisor, so I often talk to students who are interested in adding a second major. You can also opt to do a simultaneous degree, which is you have one major in LNS as well as having another major at a different college at Berkeley. So as long as you plan it out pretty early on for your freshman or sophomore year, you're able to fulfill both requirements for both majors and pretty smoothly and within the time frame for graduation.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful answer, and it really does just depend on being a little bit organized, but most of our students are more than able to do that. The next question is, after freshman year, do most undergraduates live in off-campus apartments, or where do they live? And how safe do you feel in the area around campus?
Yeah, I would say the vast majority of students do live in off-campus apartments following their freshman year. There are like apartments, some students live in co-ops, others live in fraternity or sorority houses. I think the general area of campus, as long as you're like vigilant and stay alert at night, I think it's fine for the most part, but it's just important to like not like just be too naive when you come to campus. It is like an urban setting to an extent in the areas surrounding Berkeley campus, but I think for the most part, it's pretty safe.
Great. And this next one, I'm actually going to ask Eileen to jump in again because it relates specifically to English and Complet. What is the curriculum in English and Complet like? How does it encourage students to pursue creative writing and world literature, or does it mostly focus on the old white dudes? And just to expand, how does your writing journey in growth and improvisation and self-revision, what has that been like in these classes?
Yes, I'm smiling at this question a little bit because my PhD dissertation was on an old white dude and sort of the consummate old white dude, Mr. William Shakespeare. And that being said, I love teaching Shakespeare to undergraduates and to high school, back when I taught high school English, because people do really see Shakespeare as the consummate old white dude. And one of my great joys and privileges in my life as a teacher has been to show students that there's something there for everybody. And that universality that we talk about with Shakespeare means that he could be co-opted and adapted in all of these different ways. And the way that Shakespeare has been riffed on and analyzed and extended and criticized over centuries of our world's greatest writers and thinkers and philosophers, political scientists, physicists. I mean, there's just such a vibrant conversation around Shakespeare because he's the old white dude that I found when I was a graduate student to be a really tremendously exciting field to enter into because of the diversity of thought and excitement around him, because he's so central in particular to the American curriculum. And I think there's a lot of interesting things to be said about why has America thought of itself vis-a-vis Shakespeare, who is not only an old white dude, but an old white British dude. And if you want to learn more, I'm always happy to talk more about Shakespeare. More to your question about the curriculum in English and comparative literature, I think there is a lot of really great work that's coming out of both departments. And if you go check out, and I'm going to put the link in the chat, if you go check out the course lists for spring 2022, you're going to see a lot of really cool classes, not just on old white dudes. I mean, I do see the typical classes on Walden and Henry James and Moby Dick, but I'm also seeing classes taught by Professor Hertha D. Sweet Wong on Indigenous autobiography. I'm seeing a class from Donna Jones on the European novel. I see a class with Brian Wagner on the Harlem Renaissance. And we have faculty in both English and comparative literature who want to really expand on the canon and have been at the forefront of thinking, what does it mean to revitalize and rethink and critique the canon of Western literature as we've understood it. So I think Berkeley is a great place to come and do and participate in that kind of work.
Thank you, Eileen. And just one additional thing is that in addition to an English major and minor and a comparative literature major and minor, we also have a minor in creative writing. So that if you are interested in pursuing a language and writing degree that is more focused on the creative arts, that is also something that we strongly support. I hope that answered that question. Now, I'm going to ask Cecilia, if you could you address the question about, actually, I'm not sure that any of us know the answer to the question about how competitive is computer science admission through the LNS path. It is currently set that in order to gain access to the computer science major through LNS, that you need to have a 3.3 in the prerequisite courses. What fraction of our students get a 3.3 in those prerequisite courses? I don't actually know. So do we have a way, Cecilia, of gathering up questions that we don't know the answers to and getting back to people later?
Yes, so what I'll do for any questions that are outstanding, I'll save those, get the information, and if y'all can please, we have your emails, so we'll be sure to send those out. If you ask any questions and you're anonymous, just be sure to send me specifically. I'll leave my contact in the chat. So if any of you have questions, please just follow up and we'll send you that information.
Okay, thanks. And I apologize that I should know the answer to that statistic and I don't have that statistic. All right, now we have a question about COVID. As far as COVID, how many classes are now in person and how many online? And do you have the option for every class to be online? I can take that one unless someone else wants to. Okay, so this semester, the current situation is that all of our courses that are with 200 students or fewer are being offered in person, with a small set of exceptions of courses that that were designed to be offered online and will always be offered online or are regularly offered online, and a very small set of courses where the faculty member themselves are immunocompromised. Classes of 200 students or more are being all offered remotely this semester. Given how extraordinarily low COVID rates have been on campus, we're now down at last time I checked our COVID data, we were at 0.05% of positivity rate, so extremely, extremely low. We are planning for all of those courses, including those that are 200 and more, to be offered in person in the spring. That is, we are not going to have any category of courses that are taught online, with the exception of those courses that were designed to be taught online, that are where it's pedagogically the right course of action under any health circumstance to teach them online. Can you have every class be online? There are some students this semester, with a couple of percent of students, I think the number I saw was 1.5% of our students this fall took all their classes online. That is almost certain to be impossible in the spring for an undergraduate degree. We are a centrally in-person campus, and although we are continuing to explore online, remote, and hybrid options, the in-person experience remains a very important part of our educational program here. The one thing I do want to say that has been a really exciting side effect of all of this is exploring the possibilities for hybrid instruction. That is, classes where they meet in person and they have remote pieces and they have interactive computer-based instruction in ways that we hadn't really explored before, but is much more active now as a result of this year and a half of learning to do things in new ways. I think that's all I have to say about that. Is there anything that anybody would add? All right, we've got a question for Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Can you talk a little bit about the flexibility in LNS to take classes outside your major or to transfer majors, or if you're undecided?
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility to take classes outside of your major in LNS. Like I would say less than half of the classes I've taken in LNS are actually for my major, because like I typically, and I'm graduating a year early. So for within 3 years, I can take roughly like 2 classes related to my major and then 2 other classes, whether that be fulfilling an LNS requirement. I have a minor, so I took time to take classes for that. And then now I'm just taking classes for fun. So it's definitely possible for you to explore a variety of different classes within LNS. Even as an LNS student, you're able to take classes from the other colleges. Say you're interested in environmental science classes or engineering, business classes that are also offered at Berkeley. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of that. And transferring majors, there is like, as long as you do it before, like, I think your junior year or in your junior year, if you're still making up your mind, it's a little more difficult, but it's still feasible. You just have to make sure that you're speaking with the major advisors to be on track with what prerequisite courses you need to fulfill. And then if you're undecided, especially at the beginning, a lot of freshmen are undecided. So you can take time to look at different courses you're interested in and then work with advisors to see if you can narrow it down to a certain like general area, such as like biological sciences or social sciences, and then go from there to narrow it down to a specific major that you would like to study.
That was a great answer. The next question says, can we get a research opportunity right from freshman year? And we don't have Jessica with us today, but Eileen, do you feel like you could jump in, or Maggie, do either of you feel you could jump in on that one?
Yeah, Maggie, I wonder if you could say a little bit about what you've experienced or some of your friends and classmates.
Yeah, so I was actually able to get a research opportunity in my freshman spring. So it's definitely possible. I know students who were even able to get research opportunities in their freshman fall. So a lot of students in LNS go through the URAP program. So it's the undergraduate research apprentice program, something like that, where you have professors who and graduate students who specifically want to have undergraduate students work with them in either their labs or just going through, like I do research in the history department, helping them like go through data, go through primary documents. So I applied through URAP. I also know other students who cold emailed professors. So if you go on different department websites, you can learn more about what areas of research professors focus on. You can also, for some departments, they list what graduate students and what they're working on. So I know students who just have the directory of different emails, tried a lot of different professors, and were successful in that as well. So you don't have to wait to be an upperclassman to do research at Berkeley.
I think that's so important for people to hear, Maggie, because I do think there's this perception among students at Berkeley and prospective students that you have to wait until your upper years to do research. And so thank you so much for saying that's not true. And here I am, who did it in my spring semester. Can you say maybe 2 more sentences about how you found your research opportunity in spring of your freshman year?
Yeah, so I learned about the URAP program from a friend who did it. And then I went through all of the different project listings. So there's like, I think over 100 listings across a variety of different disciplines. So just focusing in on the projects I would be interested in. And then there is an application form where you discuss your interest for it. And then I think there is an interview process where, at least for me, I met with a graduate student who I now work with very closely, and she discussed and asked me more about my interest in the research area. And then, yeah, I think it's been really great. I've really enjoyed working with her as well as the professor just throughout since my freshman year. I'm still working on the project now. Yeah.
Thanks so much. That's great. I'm reading through the Q&As, trying to see if there's some I can type answers to in advance. The next question is, would it be possible for me to start my own student organization? And what would that process be like?
So I definitely know you can start your own student organization on campus. I think you do have to fill out some paperwork, and I think most clubs at Berkeley do have like a constitution of the values, like kind of a mission statement that they abide by. And then I think as long as you turn in everything before the deadline, like no one's going to stop you from creating all sorts of organizations. You just have to be organized in advance to do so.
Yeah, I've been extremely impressed. The student organization supports many of these. Maybe I don't know if they support all of the clubs, but they support many of them. And I've just found it extremely impressive, the creativity that students show and the support that they get more broadly. All right, now we've got a very big question. What is the campus culture like in LNS? In general, are the students supportive of each other and collaborative?
Yeah, I would say the students in LNS are supportive and collaborative in my classes. Most of them have study groups going. You can meet with students if you have any questions, and everyone's open to help you for whatever information or questions you might have. I think that if you reach out to people, most people are really friendly. That's at least in my experience, just sometimes just talking to people you don't know, just sitting in your class, it can spark a friendship. So I would say LNS in the Berkeley community as a whole is quite welcoming.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, I think, of course, things have changed over time. So I'm speaking some combination of my own experiences a very long time ago and what I observe, which is only part of the story. And I'm grateful that Maggie is here to tell a more up-to-date part of the story. But I think that one of the things that really defines Berkeley is this sense of curiosity, and that includes curiosity about each other and about the lives that we've led and are leading. And I think that sense of, we're exploring together what possibilities there are. I think that is something that really defines the college. Eileen, anything else there, or we're going to move on?
Let's move on. We've got so many questions.
We have so many questions, and we have
coming in.
we have 18. Oh, we have so many questions. Okay. What is the economics curriculum like? How can I integrate political science with that? Would it be possible to do a double major in political science and economics? It is definitely possible to do a double major in political science and economics. I know a little bit what the requirements are, but actually the most effective way to learn about the economics curriculum is to look at their website, because it's laid out quite clearly. We'll get around to getting a link to the economics requirements in a minute. It's a pretty, there we go. Eileen has already done it. Bravo. And Simrath, if that doesn't answer your question completely, then write back to us and we'll try to give you more. But
I also wanted to mention that in LNS, there's the political economy major that you can combine the two if you want to instead of double majoring, but also double majoring is very possible. I know so many people in political science who double with economics.
Maggie, that's such a good point. And I think that people don't know about political economy. And I find that the students who do find out about it are like, I wish I'd known about this. So could you say just one more sentence about what is political economy and how it is different from political science?
So political economy is different from political science because you do focus on economics, but more of like the social or maybe like legislative side of economics rather than the more quantitative side. I think they also have an emphasis on like economies from like different countries, since I know there's a foreign language requirement for political economy, but I know that it's like an interdisciplinary major that you can choose your own concentration. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you want to study.
bravo, very well said. All right. Is it plausible to do a minor in a science like biology with a major in a social science like political science or economics? Is it recommended that your minor aligns with your major? Maggie, do you want to jump in on that one, or?
I can try. I don't know if there's a biology minor at Berkeley, but I do know I have friends who've done the conservation and resource studies minor, which is like similar to environmental science, but that's within CNR, which is the Natural Resources College. So I think in general, you should minor in something that you enjoy. So it doesn't have to align with what you're studying for your major. And there's a lot of flexibility in what you want to do. I know like data science has a minor. I don't know if I think there's a variety of different minors you can pursue in a lot of different fields. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just want to add that, in fact, it may be even better if your minor and your major are different. If they're too similar, it's a little bit redundant and isn't necessarily giving you that same intellectual opportunity that having them slightly different would. And we see many combinations, both of majors and minors and of double majors, where they're quite different. Music and math, or a language and almost anything, right? That there are a whole variety of combinations that are good.
Jen, I think we're running short on time, and I do
Yes.
want to make sure we get to our last question.
Okay, you're
And
entirely right. We should do that. So I apologize that we still have a bunch of questions we haven't gotten to. We are going to answer them afterwards offline. And Eileen, take our last question.
Yes, and I would love to hear the answer from both Maggie and Jenna on this question, which is, what is your favorite thing about Berkeley? Maggie?
I would say my favorite thing about Berkeley is all the opportunities that this university has to offer. If you put in the time and effort to look for just anything, really, the resources that the university provides, internships or clubs, research, anything, you name it, you can think of. As long as you reach out to people are more than willing to talk with you, and you can get extraordinary opportunities in the process. So I've been very fortunate at my time at Berkeley to meet incredible people, as well as do all sorts of things that I never imagined I would do in high school.
That is the best answer. That is so good. And I think my favorite thing about Berkeley is our students. They come from everywhere. They are extraordinary. They think remarkable thoughts, and they do remarkable things. And I feel very, very lucky to get to be part of this great organization.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Jenna. I also want to thank all of you for coming today and asking such terrific questions. As Jenna mentioned, we didn't get to all of your great questions, and I'm sure you have many, many more. So we are going to make sure we're going to figure out a way to get those answers to you. This recording is also going to be posted through the Discover Berkeley website. Cecilia, are there any other things that we should let our participants know about before we close out?
Yes, I'm going to head and drop a link in the chat for everyone to submit any additional questions to contact us, as well as if you have any questions that were asked anonymously and you would like those answers, I'll go ahead and drop my email in the chat, and that way you all can send me those questions and we'll get those answers to you hopefully by the end of this week. And then again, just a reminder that this session will be recorded and posted on the website. So thank you all for coming.